And here we are. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We have an awesome show set up for you today. But before we get started, let me know who's here. Put your name and where you're from in the chat box for us. And let's start shouting some folks out. We'll give you a couple seconds to do so. I know for some of you, school is already over. You have had your last day, your classrooms are packed up, and you are ready to summer. Summer is probably going to look a lot different for you and me than it has in the past. Thanks for showing up. So look, today I've got a great show for you. We've got Cheryl Frick and we've got Kristen Norris. They are both homegrown American Reading Company people. A little bit about Cheryl. This is her 6th year working with American Reading Company. She is currently in the role of Regional Vice President of the Mountain Sales, right? Yeah, that's how it goes. And then we've got Kristen. She is the RVP, which is the Regional Vice President also of the Mountain region. She helps in academic design. So funny story about these two. They got chartered in on a shuttle together for the first time in American Reading Company together. And here we are on the 7th work anniversary of Kristen joining them back together. How fantastic is that? Other cool facts about them, because I like to know stuff about the people that are going to talk to me. I don't want you just talking to me if we don't have anything in common. Kristen is a dog lover. She just got her first quarantine baby, whose name is Hope. She has 4 legs, not 2. And then we've got Cheryl, who, quarantine came around and everybody needed masks. We were working hard to make sure that our warehouse people were taken care of. And Cheryl, she makes masks. So if you are out and about and you realize that you don't have a mask, hit her up. She'll be your girl. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into this content. I'm going to share my screen and allow these 2 lovely ladies to walk us through what we have today. So who's up first?
Well, hi, everyone. Just wanted to reiterate, thank you for making time and taking some time out of your day today to join us. Sherry's going to help us by looking at the comment box. So let us know where you're from. And as we're going through, feel free to enter any questions that you may have. So I know, Sherry, you did a fabulous job of introducing us. So Cheryl and I will be your hosts for this afternoon. And our goals today are to just share some experiences that we have had as a team exploring IRLA conferencing in this new world of distance learning. We know starting in March, most of us had to convert from being in person with our students to supporting them in a virtual platform. And so we jumped right in and did some learning along with the teachers that we support. So we just wanted to share some of our experiences that we've had. So we're also going to just touch very briefly on a reminder of some of the ARC resources that you have available for that conferring. So we're not going to dig too deeply into the resources that ARC's provided for you, but just Cheryl and I wanted to take a minute to remind you of what you already have available if your school has a subscription to SchoolPace. So you may have your hard copy IRLA at home if you took it home for some light summer reading. If you didn't, you can, and you still have access to your SchoolPace, you can use the IRLA as a way to communicate with your students and their families. A reminder that Bookshelf was made available for anyone who had a SchoolPace subscription. So you're going to see in some of the videos that we share how you can use SchoolPace for distance conferencing. And we're not going to jump into SchoolPace live, but just wanted to make sure we post the reminder that you have access to lots of resources in the IRLA Resource Center to support any online coaching that you're doing. So skills cards and coaching records, and then those, the FSTK and toolkit supports. And Cheryl,
if you don't mind, I'm just going to add, just to make sure everyone's aware that those resources are going to be open and available to you through August 31st. So just keep that in mind in terms of the dates of what we've provided as a free resource for you all through August 31st.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Cheryl. So let's go ahead and jump in. So as I mentioned, when everything changed very rapidly with the COVID stay-at-home orders, Cheryl and I wanted to jump right in and supporting the schools that we support with how can they continue to keep their kids engaged in reading in this time. So we have a few video clips that we're going to share, and it kind of goes through the process of using IRLA with a student in a virtual platform. So the first thing that I think is just really important to remember is that we start with engagement. You won't see that on the video just for time's sake, but before this clip starts, Cheryl and I were both able to be on the Zoom with our little friend Miles, who you'll meet in just a moment, and ask him how his day was going. He's a kindergarten student. Well, now I guess the school year has ended, so he's a rising first grader, but this was done in April. So now making sure that he was in a space that was comfortable, that he was able to see his computer screen well enough that we could engage together, and just checking in with engagement just the same way that you would with a student that you're working with in person. So Cheryl, before I share the video, do you want to say anything else about our friend Miles?
Yes, we're so excited. I really felt the need for us to experience this virtual conferencing, just because in my own family, my own grandsons were struggling with that social emotional piece of connecting with their teacher. And so I reached out to a former principal of mine, knowing that she had this sweet little Miles at home. And she agreed to let us meet and conference with Miles. And I think the feedback that I got right away was that he was so looking forward to meeting with us. And that really came through in terms of his engagement with us. He was ready for a one-on-one conference. So seeing how this worked with Miles, I think really gave us encouragement to share out to other teachers how important it is to continue that individual conferencing or perhaps even small group conferencing during this time of virtual space.
Awesome. Yeah. Another fun fact, since Sherry started us off with fun facts. So I was coaching in the building where Miles's mom was a principal when Miles was an infant. So on a personal level, it was really fun to get to re-engage with Miles as a kindergarten student and see how he's doing with his reading. Okay, so we're going to see how this works. I'm going to quickly start the video and then quickly share my screen. Hang on a second. Gotta love technology. Okay, Miles, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna read some words on this list together. Can you see my cursor when I move it? Can you see the little hand? Okay, so we're gonna start over here. And I'm going to move the hand, and when I get to the next word, I want you to try and say it. And if you want to try it, go for it. If you don't know it yet, you can just say you don't know. Okay? Ready? How about this word? Good. How about this one?
I don't know.
Okay, let's go down the list. How about this one? Awesome. Do you want to try this one?
I don't know it.
Not yet? Okay. How about this one? How about this? Say it again. Awesome. How about this one?
I don't know.
Okay. How about the one underneath it?
Get.
Awesome. How about this one? Good. How about this one? Okay, let's stop there because I think what I'd like to do next, if you're okay with it, is we'll read a book together. How does that feel?
Good.
Okay, Miles, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to read some words on this list together. Sorry, trying to replay there. Okay, so just a couple of things to make mention of. I know that process of going through the phonics infrastructure probably looks familiar to many of you. What you didn't see in the clip, and again, for time's sake, was we know that we always do want to confirm that the student can get 80%, 70 to 80% of those words accurate. And so we did check that with Miles before going to the next step. But you can see, you know, he was willing to jump right in. Some of the directions had to be made a little bit more explicit just because I wasn't sitting next to him. But it gave me, as the reading coach, enough information to know where to go next. So Cheryl, do you want to talk about the cold read for a minute? I'm going to get his next video.
Sure. Yeah, so for the next step, basically, Kristen was able to open up Bookshelf, and out of the level that Miles was going to do a cold read, she was able to pull up that screen and ask Miles which of these books he would be most interested in reading. And as she scrolled slowly, Miles caught eye to a book that he did want to read. So he self-selected the book that he wanted to use as a cold read. And Kristen was then able to very quickly open up that book and get started with a cold read, much like you would do in the classroom when you're sitting side by side.
Yeah, and you'll see when we show the clip, which I think Sherry, we're ready to do in just a second, he knew exactly which one he wanted to go to, and you know, had that really clear agency around what was interesting to him. I think one thing that I'll just point out that you may notice as you watch this that's a little bit different than what would happen if you were in person is that we know that part of our conferencing, even when we're doing an initial baseline levels check, is to always ask those comprehension questions, which in person you may choose to wait until the end of the book. Because of this platform, and I'm controlling Bookshelf and Miles is not, I made the choice as the coach to ask him some comprehension at the end of every page. And then you'll also notice as he reads where I choose to give some on-the-spot coaching, which we can talk about a little bit more after you see it. So let's listen to Miles read some of his book. What I'd like you to do is look at the books that are up on the screen, and you get to choose one that you're going to read with me.
Bear.
Bug, bear. Let me find it. So you just tell me when you're ready, and if you get to a word that you're not sure of, I'll help you with it, okay? Fantastic. All right. Okay, when you're ready, go ahead. Does it help you, Miles, if I point with the cursor?
Mm-hmm.
Does that help you? Okay, let's try that then. Go for it.
There are lots of bugs on you. Yes, I can see that.
Okay, before I turn the page, what's happening to the bear right now?
There's bugs on him.
There's a word on this page I want to look at with you. Can you see my cursor?
Yep.
Do you want to try this word one more time?
There.
Good job. Let's see what happens next. What does he say here?
Bugs. Big. Me. Go. Bugs. Go.
That was great. And so what happened to all of the bugs that were on him?
They fly away.
Yeah, why did they fly away? What do you think made them fly away?
Because they got so hurt when they fought into the water.
Yes. Well, Miles, you did a great job reading that story together with me. Can we look at some of these words together? Because I bet you know most of them. Can you see my cursor? Let's just practice them before we close the book.
Me, on, are,
So what I would like you to do. Okay, so again, you can see it may look a little bit different because we're using that virtual platform of Bookshelf. But the main things that I took away from that experience, and that Cheryl and I wanted to make sure we shared with you, is that you still can have that engaging relationship building reading conference. You still are able to offer support at the point of need. And we saw that as Miles read the book.
And
You know what I love?
Oh, so
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Cheryl. You know what I love about Miles is you can take Miles out of the classroom, but you can't take those ants out of his pants wherever he is. Kids are gonna be kids. It doesn't matter where you meet them at. They're gonna be kids, and he was a good example of that.
Absolutely, and it didn't matter. What I was gonna say is, obviously you could tell that that was a clip from a full conference, and the full conference that we spent with Miles was, in this portion of the cold reads, was right around 6.5 minutes. So you saw about 2 minutes of that. So I just wanted, because we could tell we were kind of skipping through that a little bit, but I wanted to make everyone always ask, well, how long does it take? So it was about 6 to 7 minutes that we spent on this cold read with him.
All right, so then from the cold read, as the reading coach, you're able to think about what a power goal might be for the students. So I think the context is also important for those of you watching who you're thinking, you know, you might have made different moves with students from your classroom. So Miles was a child that I don't have a long-standing relationship with. And so some of the things that I did were also investigating where he was. So as he was reading, he demonstrated a pretty solid grasp of his one green power words. I made the choice to go into the one green power words to just confirm that. Again, when you're coming into this work with your student, you may have more context and might choose to make a different move, but just wanted to make sure everyone knew why I'm going to one green, even though he seemed fairly confident with those words. So again, just as far as resources, I was able to pull up his IRLA and go through the one green power word check with him, and then also noticed the words that he was not sure about in his text, and made the choice to set those as his power goal. So I am going to show you a little clip of his power goal conference.
And while Kristen transitions to that clip, I want to let you know that some teachers that, I'll tell you after. Did it get started?
No, it just, when I open it, I have to start it before I can share.
Okay, I was just going to say the teachers that I have heard from that are doing this virtual conferencing have actually shared that it's been almost easier than in the classroom, because they don't have the whole rest of the class that they're, you know, have to kind of keep an eye on. It's really truly a one-on-one or a small group conference, pretty concentrated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one other thing to share, again, we're hoping that you can see the ease of use with a student, but also you'll notice in this Power Goal conference that I'm using one of the features in Zoom that allows you to write on your screen. And it was new for me. So again, just to give yourself some grace if you're trying a new platform, and kind of call that out for the students too. And you'll see Miles didn't really mind that it took me a minute to find the right color to circle his words. So let's see if I can show you this now. Did a really, really good job reading that book. And what I noticed is that there were 2 words I think we can set as your power goal. How does that feel to you?
Yep.
Okay, so here are the 2 words that I noticed that we could practice. One of the words is right here. I'm gonna try and circle it. Oh boy, let's see how we go here. Okay, here's one. Can you see the word circled in purple? That word is there. Can you say there?
There.
Okay, and here's the other word that I want you to practice. I'm gonna circle it in purple. Can you see it?
Yep.
So that word is what? See if I
Not
can.
what.
Can you
Not
see
what.
what?
And what.
So you're gonna, when you're reading your books, either by yourself or with your mom, you're gonna look for these two words, there and what. Can you say them with me?
There and what.
Okay, awesome, friend. And that's gonna be your power goal, okay? Okay, so again, he's got a little personality. He was great. And you didn't see it in the clip, but you did see at the beginning where he kind of stumbled over the word there and we went back to visit it. And then the other word that came up in the pages that were not in the video that you saw was the word what. He kind of stumbled on that a couple of times. So again, if I was in class and I knew I was going to be seeing Miles every day, I might have given him more than 2 power words to practice, but in this context, 2 felt appropriate for him.
So we
Cheryl,
have
do you
one
wanna talk
last
about
little clip to share with you. You know, this last little clip is so worth showing because I think it goes back to what I was saying in terms of how much this means to kids to meet with their teacher. So after each little portion, Kristen gave him some accolades and at the end she says, okay, let's do a virtual high five. So I'd really like to see how, let you see how Miles interpreted that high five at the end of his conference. It's worth the wait.
Yeah, sorry. I know the technology is a little tricky. All right.
Okay.
Cheryl, will you just show me a thumbs up when so I know you can hear it. Tell me the 2 words that you're going to practice.
There and what.
Okay, give me one more virtual high five because you did awesome. Yay! Oh, he was fantastic. He just what you didn't see is when we finished the book and I said, well, let's do a high five, and just spontaneously he just came at me with both of his hands like that. And I hadn't gotten it on the recording because I'd already stopped the book. And so then when we did the Power Goal conference, I asked him again and he just went right in for it. So super exciting, very enthusiastic. You know, his mom was there and was just commenting a few times to us that, you know, he was definitely engaged. And, you know, Sherry already pointed out the ants in his pants. And when we got to the end of the Power Goal conference, I mean, he did a great job. And then he was even more wiggly and we knew it was time to close. I mean, it was okay because he had done the hard work and he knew what his goal was and we were all ready to move on. So I think also just having that awareness, much is the same way you do when you're teaching in the classroom, but especially for your younger students, when they begin to get wiggly and you see their attention is fading, you know, to take that into consideration and pivot. But I mean, just rewatching these videos, it just, you can see I got the ear to ear smile. He just brought so much joy to me getting to work with him that day. So that's why we wanted to share with you. So I guess like for closing, and I'm not sure if any questions have come in, but these are some reflection questions that I like to use when I'm coaching just to help us think about, you know, from your learning, is there something you might adopt, something you might adapt, anything that you were doing that now you might consider abandoning? And of course, maybe you have some general questions or comments, or if you've gotten to do virtual conferencing and you want to share your experience in the chat, just we'll just open it up.
You know, one of the things that I was thinking about as I'm listening to your presentation is I don't have children of my own. However, I have lots of nieces, nephews, and cousins. How easy it would be to interact with them virtually. You know, it takes a couple seconds, a couple minutes to figure out technology, as we've realized, but so easy. I can see teachers right now who have taken their American Reading Company assessment IRLA home for some light reading, as you mentioned. I could see them perhaps engaging with students maybe that have the capability and access to do so over the summer, quite similar to our Art Cloud. When you said though that this was a student that you had not had the opportunity to interact with prior to. What is your advice to teachers that are out there listening right now who are hesitant to have these kinds of conversations with students that they don't know? How do you get over that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, what I have done, and I've gotten to do this with a few students since we all went to distance learning, is just much the same way as I relate to kids in the classroom. So I just try to be my authentic self, and I let them know that we're going to try something new. I always try to do a check-in with how are they feeling? How's your day been so far? I mean, Miles and I had a conversation about his lunch before we started doing the IRLA infrastructure. And I think even with a student that young, just keeping those engagement practices and being honest about what you're doing. I mean, this is as new as it is for students to interact this way, it is for teachers too. And I think we just all have to name that and recognize there might be a dog who barks in the background. There might be a baby sister or brother who cries, or someone's cutting the grass, or, whatever can come up. We all know now that we've been working at home for a while. So I think just jumping in with authenticity and honesty is what I might recommend.
I might just add a little bit to that, Sherry, as well, is in the conferences that we did virtually, we've done a few with a couple of different students, and the parents are nearby typically, and that brings a comfort to the student. And while Kristen may have been somewhat of a stranger to Miles, the fact that his parent was right there with him made that a little bit more comforting, I think, where we smoothly sailed right into that. And that was the same with another student that we worked with as well. Just very easy to transition into kind of a normal relationship, even though we were new to him.
And I think too, oh, sorry, Cheryl, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I was just going to say, if parents aren't home, because we know parents are also navigating, perhaps working online from home. If there's a sibling or, another human being who's able to be with the student with whom you're conferencing, I think that's fine too. Again, we're not in a traditional brick and mortar classroom, so we have the opportunity to think outside the box. And if it is going to bring comfort to the student to have a sister or brother or their dog or their stuffed animal, I mean, my feeling is bring it. Whatever's going to help them be engaged with you is only going to be positive.
That's it. In my conversations with teachers during quarantine, it appears that students are actually excited to get on these platforms because they miss it. They have a thirst, so to speak, for good teaching that they have been missing. One last question that we have before we wrap up is just, how did you set up the conference? How did you prepare for that time?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So as far as the resources, I made sure that I had School Pace open, and I had created a student for Miles, again, because he was not I'm not a teacher in a school. I used a different School Pace login, but I set up an IRLA for Miles. I also opened up the phonics infrastructure from the IRLA Resource Center. So I had that available. And then I had on another one of my tabs, I had Bookshelf open. So that when we had finished the infrastructure piece, I could just, and again, you didn't see it in the videos because we didn't show you all the nitty gritty, but I just said to Miles, okay, we're going to pick a book to read. So just be patient for a minute while I switch my view. And he was fine. And we opened it up, and then you saw him, he knew exactly what book he wanted to read, and we were able to go right to it. So I think much like you would think about what you want to have at your conference table in your classroom or your conference cart, just think about what you want to have ready for the student. And honestly, there are a lot of platforms that I had not explored yet. Zoom has a whiteboard feature that you could see. I was a novice with even using the drawing tool, but just whatever platform you're using, if you are comfortable and familiar with the resources, I would say give it a try.
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. I got, several little nuggets. Like I said, I can see myself trying to attempt to do this with a couple of nieces and nephews that are far away, just to kind of keep the instruction going as the summer begins. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Let's all give each other some virtual high fives like Miles as we end the session. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Kristen. To our audience, we hope you join us again next Wednesday at 3:00. We'll be here with some more information to share with you. Have a great afternoon, guys.